She stole $50,000 from their own mother, while their mother was losing her mind and couldn't remember a single dollar was gone. And the thief was literally cutting her wedding cake when the whole thing came crashing down. I promise you, this story gets so much worse. Okay, so, two sisters, one family, and a dynamic that I think a lot of people are gonna recognize immediately. There's the golden child, older sister, the one everyone praised, the one who got the benefit of every doubt since basically birth. Could do no wrong. And then there's the other one, the younger sister, not invisible exactly, but definitely not the favorite. She'd made her peace with it though. Genuinely. She wasn't out here stewing in resentment. She'd just accepted the way her family worked and moved on. And then their mom got sick. Not suddenly, slowly. The kind of sick that creeps in. Forgotten conversations, misplaced bills, a little more confusion every month. And when the golden child stepped up and volunteered to take over managing their mom's finances, the whole family practically wept with relief. Of course she did. She's so dependable. She's so selfless. Yeah, about that. So for a couple of years, everything looks fine on the surface. Mom's being taken care of. Golden child is handling the accounts. Family's at peace. But here's the thing about money. It leaves tracks. When the family finally sat down with a legal specialist to set up a proper financial trust, because mom's condition was progressing and they needed to get serious, the specialist starts reviewing the accounts. And something is very, very wrong. Nearly $50,000. Gone. Withdrawn over more than 2 years in a pattern that nobody had caught because nobody had been looking. Their mom had no memory of authorizing any of it. Zero. And when the golden child was asked for documentation, receipts, records, anything, she came back with absolutely nothing. Not one receipt. For $50,000. The legal specialist quietly suggested maybe the family should get law enforcement involved. But the younger sister didn't want to wait for a slow official process. She wanted to know, so she hired a financial forensics professional out of her own pocket and said, "Find every dollar." What came back was damning, doesn't even cover it. Every single withdrawal traced directly back to Big Sister. Luxury spa days, designer bags, and, okay, hold on, a down payment on a vacation property that Big Sister had casually announced she'd purchased on her own, with her own money, that she'd worked so hard for. $50,000. Stolen from their mother, who couldn't remember, who couldn't fight back, who was sitting in her house confused about her own bills while her daughter was booking spa weekends. The audacity of this woman. I cannot. So the younger sister confronts her. Privately. One-on-one. Just the two of them. And you'd think, that getting caught red-handed with a forensic paper trail would produce some genuine remorse. Right? Like maybe some actual accountability? Nope. She got tears. She got tears and promises to pay it all back, and this is the part that got me. One very specific request one asked. Please don't say anything before the wedding. Big Sister was weeks away from marrying this guy, and apparently exposing her as a financial predator right before the ceremony was just inconvenient timing. And the younger sister? She agreed. She said okay. She kept the secret. Now, the rehearsal dinner, the night before the wedding. And I need you to picture this scene because it matters. The younger sister is sitting there watching her golden child sister work the room. Charming everyone. Being her perfect, effortless, magnetic self. And then, the groom's family stands up. His family, by the way, is warm and generous and loaded. Old money, open hearts, the whole thing. And they present the couple with an $80,000 wedding gift. $80,000. And Big Sister hugs them. Smiles. accepts it gracefully, looks like the luckiest, most beloved woman in the room. The younger sister's stomach turned. I felt that in my soul. She stayed quiet that night. She slept on it. She showed up to the wedding. She sat through the ceremony. She watched her sister get married. And then the reception started. And the maid of honor stood up for the toasts. Now what did the maid of honor say? She talked about what an extraordinary person the bride was. How selfless she was. How she would do absolutely anything for the people she loved. How she was such a devoted, family-first human being. And the younger sister sat at her table, listening to every word, and she looked across that banquet hall at her mom, sitting in her nice dress, looking around at the crowd with those gentle, confused eyes, not entirely sure why everyone was gathered, not entirely sure what was being celebrated, just there, sweet and lost and completely unaware that the woman being toasted as a saint had stolen $50,000 from her. Something broke open. She didn't grab a microphone. She didn't stand up and scream. She didn't make a scene. She waited for the toasts to end. She walked over to her new brother-in-law. She asked for 10 minutes alone with him. He said yes. She sat down across from him and she laid out every single document. The bank records. The forensic report. The full documented trail of every transfer. Every withdrawal. Every luxury purchase. Page by page. She watched the color drain out of his face. She didn't editorialize. She didn't narrate. She just let him read. And then she let him decide what to do next. He stood up, walked back into his own wedding reception, and confronted his wife. Right there, in that room, with the flowers still on the tables and the cake half eaten and the DJ still playing something in the background. She confessed, on the spot, no hesitation, just, yes, I did it. His family immediately demanded their $80,000 gift back. And that wedding reception, that beautiful, expensive, carefully planned celebration, collapsed in real time. Guests didn't know where to look. The bride was crying, not the happy kind. The groom had the face of a man whose entire future just restructured itself in 45 minutes. The party was over. Okay, and here's where it gets complicated. Because the fallout was messy in every direction. Big Sister immediately launched a campaign. Told anyone who'd listen that the younger sister was jealous, vindictive, had always hated her, tried to paint the whole thing as a personal attack dressed up as justice. Their dad, their own father, said she should have waited until after the honeymoon. The honeymoon. So Big Sister could have a nice vacation first and then face consequences. That's a choice of priorities. Sir, a family member, and I genuinely cannot, said she'd ruined a perfectly good party. A party, as the primary concern. Okay, but then, about a week later, their mom had one of her clearer days. The kind that come less and less often when memory starts going. She looked at her younger daughter. She took her hand, and she told her she was glad someone had been watching out for her. I'm not okay. And the groom, the man whose entire wedding dissolved in one afternoon, who had to reroute his whole life. He sent a text a few days later. It just said, thank you. He was pursuing an annulment. And the karma? The karma was doing its thing quietly and completely. Because he came from that generous family, with the old money, and the open hearts, and now he knew exactly who he'd almost legally bound his life to. Half the family thinks she went too far. The other half is fully in her corner. The verdict is still split. But that man's text? That mom taking her hand? That's two people whose lives went in a better direction because someone decided that a party wasn't more important than the truth. So here's what I need you to decide. Was she wrong? Should she have stayed quiet, let the wedding happen, and handled it after? Or was the wedding exactly the right moment? Because that was the moment the lie was at its biggest. The stakes were at their highest. And waiting any longer would have just made her complicit? Drop your verdict in the comments. Was she justified? Or did she go too far? Because this comment section is about to be unhinged, then I am here for every word of it. Next up, a story that made our entire team put down our phones and just stare at each other. You do not want to miss it. Subscribe so you never miss a single drop of drama. Stories shared on this channel are inspired by real experiences posted online. All details have been anonymized and rewritten. Any resemblance to specific individuals is coincidental.